And if I had to be another person to stand up, if I think, after really going through this, and looking at the files and looking at the case, if I really feel that Karen Reed didn't do this and I have to be a voice that stands up and helps, I will.
We are expecting to learn more about the allegations against the girlfriend of a Boston police officer who was found unresponsive in the snow Saturday morning. I-Team sources say Karen Reed was in a relationship with John O'Keefe. She's facing charges including motor vehicle homicide and manslaughter.
We're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. It just feels like no one else wants it.
Just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life.
Yeah.
I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in his blood. I was the only one trying to save his life.
Why do you admit to it?
She didn't admit to it. She didn't admit to anything close to that. Nothing close to that. And you should know that.
That was like 3 or 4 times she admitted to it.
No, she didn't.
That's not true.
She asked a question. She asked a question, which is very different. She didn't admit to anything.
I'm going to tell you one thing. Karen Reed's not going to fold. Karen Reed's not going to give up. Defense team's not going to quit. The Free Karen Reed movement is going to continue. We will continue to raise funds for her. We will continue to do standouts across Massachusetts, across the nation, across the world to let everybody know what's going on here in the state of Massachusetts, the corruption. And we will continue to get the word out there. Believe me. Believe me. We are here. We are here. I literally have sweat dripping off my forehead now because this always seems to happen in the LTL studio. But we're going to bring it in. We're going to zen. And we're going to have a good time tonight. So very disastrous day for the Commonwealth today.
Not a good day.
Not a good day. They brought on Shanon Burgess. And he's been dubbed Man Shanon.
Yeah, I was wondering what was the origin of that?
Turtle Boy, of course.
But did he have a purpose for that?
Because his first name is Shanon and he's a man.
Okay.
So it's Man Shanon.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so he's been dubbed Man Shanon. And very disastrous day for the Commonwealth. And it was funny, I was green rooming with Todd before Nan came in. And we're talking, I'm like, how would you not know that was going to happen today? I mean, is it just, this is the guy? And Todd was just basically saying, like, they didn't do their research on this
They
guy.
didn't vet him. They didn't properly vet him. You have
yeah.
to properly vet your witnesses. They're testifying a high-profile murder case. You bring a guy in that barely has an associate's degree, testifying as an expert?
Yeah.
Come on.
I think so, too. I think it was a failure to vet him. However, first, any lawyer should, properly vet an expert. But in addition to that, the line of questioning that Alessi went into about the link from the website being cut from the Aperture website to
his LinkedIn account.
Right.
Yep.
So that had to have happened, according to Alessi, within the last 72 hours, which means to me, as someone who kind of preps for the next witness in the 72 hours before they testify, somebody in the prosecutorial team had to have known. They had to have seen that maybe we don't want to do this connection. Maybe we don't want people to click and realize that he's undereducated or that there's a discrepancy in his education. So I think there was some knowledge of his lack of education. But at the 11th hour, it would have been incumbent upon Brennan or any of the other prosecutors who are basically paperweights at this point to speak up and say, we have a little issue here. Because no attorney is supposed to be presenting an expert who probably is going to perjure themselves. Like, I don't think that Burgess was going to point out, hey, there's an error on my CV had he not been asked. And in addition to that, with regard to his CV, I don't believe, and I was driving up here around that time, or maybe I was in court, I don't remember, But I don't believe that Brennan asked him about his education, which is a fundamental step.
Debbie in the chat saying that his LinkedIn is actually shut down now. This is how bad it's gotten.
Yeah, this is horrible. You know, this is...
I mean, I don't care. It's good for
I'm
Karen
happy.
Steve. I mean, it's great. But this is a disaster for the Commonwealth.
Right.
I agree.
The train left the station, and he's on the call list. You're up next, pal.
Yeah.
What do? You got to shut everything else in the background down.
And the fact that there were so many different layers of discrepancy, whether it was one CV listed one date or one link to a different CV listed that he was, I forget the words, like pending approval,
Pending approval.
or pending
Yeah,
something.
pending approval.
One, I'm going to call it a CV, but something online linked to Aperture had indicated that he actually had the degree. So there's these multifaceted layers that all point to a direction that this was a knowing misrepresentation. It wasn't just the, oops, I'm sorry, I forgot. And not only can we comment on the fact that it's taken him, and I mean no offense to anyone who has not gone to college or finished college when I say this, but 17 years, folks, 17 years to not get your bachelor's of science, like, come on now. So
Yeah, so we had, I'm looking at my notes up here. He lied about his credentials, his bachelor's degree, unless he ends up actually calling him out. We've talked about that. And the funny thing is this reminded me, literally the minute I heard it, and I don't know if either one of you, and I actually was talking to Todd about this before you came, is this reminds me of the West Memphis 3 trial.
Yes.
Back in 1994, and I'm sure all of you have heard about it, and actually Eddie Vedder did a lot of advocating for these 3 guys and ultimately helped getting attorneys to get them out. But anyway, the minute I heard this, I'm literally going, oh my God, like I remember this happening in that trial, and what the state did, and this was back in the 90s where there was like satanic panic,
Yeah.
So it was this brutal, awful murder. 3 young boys ended up getting killed. They wrangle up the neighborhood boys to take the fall for this. 3 of them, they get one of them into a false confession. They end up going to prison for 20 years, I think it is. But ultimately what happened was in the trial, they had an expert that came in. The guy's name was, and I have it in my notes, Dale Griff was the guy. He was supposed to be this expert on occult and black magic. Okay.
Okay.
So they bring him in, and he has all these degrees, these bachelors and doctrines, and he goes through the state's presentation, and then ultimately, when they get up on cross, they go, can you please tell us about your credentials, sir? Like, where did you attain your associate's degree? Where did you get your bachelor's? Where did you get your doctrine?
Right.
Come to find out, they were all mail-in diplomas or
God.
degrees. It was he had no credentials, and it was literally a mail order, I don't know,
Yeah,
diploma.
like
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting that because I saw that you had posted about the comparison to the West Memphis 3, and in my opinion, this is why there should have been a voir dire of Burgess and probably Welcher. I'm gonna reserve opinion on that, but there should have been a voir dire of Burgess, not only because there are questions as to why he's reached these new opinions and the new timeline, which sure didn't really make any sense and had no credibility today. No expert is just going to, on their own, go in and revisit prior opinions they had. And I really thought today that when Alessi was asking him, hey, this is your May 8th report, and it says, like, per your request, Brennan, here are my new findings or my supplemental findings. So when you have that type of report, which is very common, by the way, not during a trial, but very common for a supplemental expert report to come, but they always lead off per your request. This is what I've done. There's no way Brennan didn't ask him to do this. And if you notice, that's why Alessi's asking him, was Aperture, did they bill for this? Were they paid for this? Who would be knowledgeable at Aperture concerning payment? Because an expert not only would not come of their own volition and do a supplemental expert report, but they get paid for it.
It's billable hours.
You don't, you're a fee for service.
Kind of sounds like when they were grilling him about ARCA, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How the
So-
tide has shifted.
As the tide has shifted.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I want to get a couple of quotes here. After court today, Karen Reed quoted, there's a quote. She said, "My reaction as the attorney Hank Brennan represented to this court and to us last week that he was surprised to get a report on May 8th that was only shared by us on May 11th. And now we find out from this witness that Attorney Brennan knew this report was coming the whole time.
Yeah.
That's the definition of an ambush. That's what happened." Bill Reed after court today said, "What the state is doing to is prosecuting. What the state is doing is prosecution of. I get that right? Persecution of Karen Reed. Thank you. This collection of actors, witnesses is just disgraceful."
Yeah, 100%. You know, and to piggyback on what Nan just mentioned about that report, that supplemental, then he goes on to say that it was a copy and paste.
Yeah, which was great questioning, Todd, from Alessi, because he's like, "Well, don't you read this for accuracy?" And
In editing and
he said he didn't read this one. So either he's undereducated to hold himself out as an expert, unobservant and careless in how he puts his reports together, or just a complete idiot. Either way, it's a net win for Team Karen Reed.
That's right.
And I'm really happy to know that Bill Reed spoke up and had opinions on this. It's time, and it continues to be time for the Reed family to voice their frustrations and to continue voicing them, because this hackorama is so frustrating at a guttural level at this point.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, let me go through a little bit of the timeline. I wrote these notes today. So initial report dated January 3rd, 2025. Second report submitted on May 8th, 2025. Then obviously 2 weeks later, Reed's second trial begins. This is very important. Second report added the text stream events and collision data not mentioned in the original report.
Right.
Burgess admitted to post-trial communications with defense attorney Hank Brennan and state police. Oh, look whose name has come back up again. Brian Tully, regarding these updates. And then we have the alleged scientific bias. So Alessi challenged Burgess on scientific impartiality, stating bias leads to inconclusive science. Burgess was accused of calling the case a homicide before completing any forensic testing. And I talked to Todd about this today when we were green roomming. I said, look, to me, what it looks like is that Shanon took the end result and worked backwards to formulate his theory. And there was another Netflix documentary I'm going to go to here, The Staircase.
Yes.
They did this in The Staircase. There was a corrupt CSI investigator that did recreations of the crime scene in The Staircase, and he took the end result and continuously, over and over again, did his experiments until he could recreate the results inside the crime scene. And ultimately, this guy did this multitude of times, fabricated evidence, lied on reports, and here we are. It's almost the same similar situation.
Many people were convicted improperly because of him. That was Dwayne Deaver.
Dwayne Deaver, yep.
And you know, when any expert, especially in a scientific field, whether it's technological or biological technologies or anything like that, when an expert goes to the end result and then works backwards, it undermines the whole purpose of an experiment.
Of scientific experiments.
Yeah, the experiment is supposed to be like, okay, we think it happened this way.
Right.
So let's try it. Not, okay, we know, for example, the blood stain was here. So we're going to then perform all of our testing and studies so we can get blood to go right there. It just doesn't work that way. That's a great documentary, though, The Staircase, if anyone hasn't seen it.
Yeah, you got to both check that out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
It's really good. So then we have the credibility issues. Alessi exposed inconsistency in Burgess' educational background. Obviously, we heard about the falsifying the bachelor's degree. Burgess admitted that his resume and LinkedIn falsely listed a bachelor's degree and he actually holds only an associate's degree. And then it said, I put a note, sounds to me like Shanon took the result and worked backwards. And that's what we actually just talked about here. I think he looked like a deer in headlights. And I can't believe, I'm like, am I watching this trial right now?
What was interesting was he was caught. There was no way he could fabricate or manipulate his story or try to come up with another angle.
Yeah.
He was stuck.
Yeah, and I happened to hear a couple of law tubers commenting on it as I was headed here, and it's my opinion that they probably knew it was coming, just like I said before.
You think they did? Really?
That LinkedIn link was disconnected in the last 72 hours, so I'm gonna at least suspect.
And maybe they thought they were going to do that, and then they weren't going to catch on to it.
But
they probably had someone there watching this account to see what was going to happen.
But also, I mean, it was on Twitter. So I remember sometime late last week or Saturday, something in the last few days, where I saw some questions about his education, and it came up when I was on Maz's stream yesterday. And I'm like, did you guys hear about the problem with his education? And they hadn't heard about it. So I was like, well, I saw it somewhere. And so I have to believe there was some level of like precognition about it. They had to have known a little bit. Problem is, you can't perjure yourself, despite, tell the McAlberts that, but you can't perjure yourself. But this quote expert he has no future. That people are saying he's going to get fired. I would never retain him as an expert moving forward. I dig into, like you were saying, Todd, vet your experts. Had he not had the degree, and there's nothing wrong with an associate's degree to hold these opinions, but because he kind of brushed it off like, there were some inaccuracies and forget the words he used. He basically kind of said, it's no big deal. Like there were errors and inaccuracies I need to supplement my CV. His credibility is so shot right now.
And not only his, but now Aperture, because Aperture hired this guy to be an expert, and now they're boosting his credibility and boosting employees' credibility to make them look, I'm gonna sound dumb, more credible.
Yes.
In their assumptions.
And the converse is true as well, because if you undermine Shanon Burgess as an expert for Aperture, and if Shanon Burgess, if you all heard, like he was like, well, I don't know it. I don't really look at everything Aperture puts out about my qualifications. So he was distancing himself a little bit from maybe it's Aperture's problem that I've been misadvertised to the general public, to judges, to courts, to lawyers, to people who need to retain me. But his lack of qualifications and his lack of candor and misrepresentations in his CV and on his LinkedIn, these are things that make Aperture look bad.
That's right.
So why would Aperture engage him as an employee or an independent contractor? I was bantering back and forth with a friend about that earlier. So either way, it's basically going to be up to the prosecution to decide who, in my opinion, they're going to have to put more weight into their opinions. Is it going to be Welcher or is it going to be Burgess? Because Burgess shit the bed today.
But he shared. Go ahead, Todd.
What else comes into question is his work product.
Right.
So if you're willing to be misleading about your educational background, your professional, how your professional profile is, then your work product is also going to be substandard.
I agree. And Alessi was asking him early on, within the first 5 minutes, how important are ethics in your field?
That was a masterclass. Alessi, again, this is his strength.
Yeah.
In one of the reasons he's on the team. He goes in and he just layer by layer just dismantles, these witnesses, and he does it so professionally, and he does it, in a nice way. And even when he comes on strong, he's like a gentleman.
Yeah, I love
appreciate
it.
He was like, I appreciate that.
Exactly.
He goes, do you want me to? He goes, do you want me to read it? He goes, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, or like Burgess said, like, I have no, I didn't consider that at all. And Alessi's like, correct.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, correct. I
was
love that.
awesome.
That's the reason for my line of questions.
Yeah. I mean, it is a master class, Todd. And one day I want to hear the story about how Alessi came to the Reed team or the Reed team found him. You know, was he someone like me who's just a lawyer from New York who says, I need to help these people? I don't know. Like, I really would be interested. Maybe Alan has worked with him previously, or maybe he was recommended, but he is the best suited attorney to do this.
Yeah.
He
Right
comes
guy
with
for the right role.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So from what I heard, he's been working with the Reed team for a while, and he's just been kind of behind the scenes.
Oh, cool.
And I think they brought him out of the back pocket in this one because they knew, you know, his expertise was going at all this, you know, digital evidence. You know, Alan's very strong in it, but I think that, you know, Robert's area of expertise is a lot of this digital expert. And, you know, really, I see where he shines as well too, is that he can make he can get those witnesses to perjure themselves.
Yeah.
And he creamed this guy today. I was just like,
That was
am
a
I
shellacking.
watching this?
That was a shellacking.
It was he
Yeah.
he just got smoked.
I know. It
Got
was
smoked.
fun. It was fun.
It was a good win, and I love I love this too. He goes, "Do you spell your name with one N or is it two N's?" So
Yep.
he's kind of dipping them on there, and then he goes, because the remember in the original report, bits and bytes, he couldn't
Yeah.
figure out what a bit and a byte was, and he
Yeah.
goes, "The difference between a bit and a byte," and I'm like, dude, he's just clowning on this guy right now.
But
So-
the whole point of the Shanon and the spelling of the Shanon is just worth mentioning, because that was an example of Alessi trying to show that whatever the document was, and I guess it was a CV.
It was
or
the CV.
It was either a CV
Yeah.
or is like on some online profile with Aperture. And Alessi was trying to show, but that's your unique spelling of your name.
Yeah.
You would have reviewed that. You should have reviewed that. You're the only person who would be qualified enough to know your professional credentials. So it wasn't just like this oversight and oops, Aperture made a mistake and I'm really a complete idiot. So it was masterful. And yeah, I want more of it. And I don't think Alessi is anywhere near done.
I think he teed himself up nicely for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let me get to a couple super chats here. All off the Russian metalhead. Thank you so much for the $2. Said Shannon Burgess got his clock rung by Alessi. Oh, I got the pun there. Dun dun dun. I got the pun. And we got Deborah. Thank you for the $19.99 super sticker. I appreciate that. And I think it's Kamala Norris, $5 says, and when I don't know what the word is. Mendacity enters the trial. Did I say that right?
Mendacity.
I don't know. I don't know what that is, and I don't know the definition of that word. So
I
I'm not
don't
gonna try.
either. And I was.
And you have a higher degree than me.
I was
You
Phi
have a higher
Beta
degree than
Kappa.
me.
Damn it, Kamala Norris, throw in the regular chat with the definition of that word. And I was an
Please.
English major, and I don't know.
Please, please. Whoa, look at this big super chat. Wow, thank you so much. A $400 super chat
Beautiful.
from Cosmo Nurse.
Whoa.
Wow, I didn't watch the first trial, but in my opinion, this guy single-handedly destroyed the Commonwealth's case. The charges need to be dropped.
You know.
I'm going to let you
That's
both
powerful.
comment on that.
Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead, Todd.
We talked a lot, and this is kind of where my stance has been on the law enforcement side of things, talking about the inadequacies of the law enforcement investigation. Well, now we're looking at the inadequacies of these so-called experts,
Right.
and they're being called out in something like education. That
Yeah.
if you can't come true and clear about your background, that opens the door for you to even be considered an expert. What else are you inadequate on? What else are you hiding? What else are you being deceitful about?
I agree with that as well. And also, and thank you for that really generous super
Thank you
chat,
so much.
Cosmo Nurse. When I saw the complete evisceration of Burgess on the stand today, my thought was, I believe that once Burgess's testimony is complete, the defense should immediately thereafter file a motion or make an oral motion to disqualify him as an expert, and or, as Cosmo Nurse is suggesting, somehow suggest that the charges be dismissed. That's a little heavy-handed.
That's going to be tough.
But
yeah.
Disqualify him, not only because he's not qualified, but he has made in his papers material misrepresentations of his qualifications. They should file something. Now they have done enough, Alessi has done enough in his questioning to really highlight these points. So if they don't file something, I don't want anyone to panic and say, oh my God, they didn't file this motion. Alessi has preserved all of,
Yep.
Alessi has preserved all of the rights that Karen would need to preserve. But I do think they should make a motion to disqualify him.
Yeah, let's see. Cosmo Nurse said that, thanks for the $2. Again, she says, mendacity means liar in trial talk.
Does it really?
I'm going to look up the definition right now.
I'm liking that. Thank you
Let's see.
for saying that.
Let's
I
find
just
out.
call them fucking liars. But, that's good. I'm going to use that
me
now
see.
moving forward.
Mendacity. It's untruthfulness and lying. I've never heard of that word, and apparently a lot of the other people in the chat said Alessi dropped it on Monday.
Oh man.
Yeah, of course. That's his
that's
his
the-
$1 million word.
Yeah, I'm going to use that now moving forward.
Yeah,
so thank
he's got
you.
a large vocabulary for sure.
He's very smart.
Yeah,
a lot
and,
smarter than me.
Sometimes you have to watch it before a jury because most juries don't know all the words. But
Right.
but he is absolutely just slays with his diction. I mean, he's fantastic, especially when he's arguing motions. But he does come across as just such a nice guy, and he lures you into a false sense of comfort. And even when you're completely tanking your own qualifications, you're like, wait, he's being nice to me. So there are misrepresentations on my CV. Okay. I mean, he's just being nice about it. And this poor guy, Burgess,
I'm not feeling bad for him.
No, but
I'm not feeling bad. He got up and lied about his credentials.
I will say, though,
And he's a Commonwealth witness, so screw them.
as with any witness who comes on for a second or a third day, you can all anticipate tomorrow morning seeing a stronger showing from him. He can't recover, don't get me wrong, but there will be a more a robust level of confidence in how he testifies, whatever it's going to be about, just because Brennan is going to continue. Todd's like, I don't know how you come back from that.
Yeah, I don't know how you come back in knowing it's just going to be more of the same. And what else is he going to discover?
I know, and I have a feeling, and a little birdie told me there's another bombshell coming.
Oh,
but
boy.
That's all I'm.
Stay tuned, everyone.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't think that he can recover. And I knew right away it took a little bit, but I watched his body language. So when he's first, when Alessi's asking him questions and I'm going, all right, where's this going? He starts going into the educational background, gets about 15, 20 minutes in. And then all of a sudden I saw his body. He just tried to get as small as he could inside that witness box. I watched it. You can see it. And his face turned about the brighter than a tomato. And I said,
heard
this guy's
that.
done. And I'm surprised he wasn't sweating. He should have been sweating. But then after he got grilled, and I was watching just before Todd came, after about maybe 35 or 40 minutes of grilling, they took a short pause and he went, he literally could not audibly hold it back.
Letting
He
all
knew
the
he was
stress out.
done. Just fried.
Letting all the stress out.
Fried green tomatoes.
I know. It's funny. I've had experts who have been cross-examined by some of my adversaries who are really, really good attorneys. And it's an art to cross-examine. And this one attorney I have had dealings with, he recently passed away, who's fantastic. And I had to prep my expert witness not only for the substantive opinions he was going to give, but how to deal with this guy, Bill. and Bill is the type of guy who will steal your wallet and help you look for it. So I'm like,
The
we're
worst
going to
kind of
spend a
person.
whole weekend, not even on your opinions, but on how you can keep your composure with Bill. And, you know, it's my opinion, if you are not qualified from an emotional and psychological standpoint to withstand like really strong cross-examination, even if it comes across in a very melodic sense like that comes from Alessi, then you can't be an expert. And I have a feeling others would agree with this. Many of these experts, whether it's Whiffen, Hyde, I would imagine Welcher or Burgess, like these are people who are just telling the Commonwealth what they want to hear to get the proposal to serve in this capacity, get paid. They're not qualified, and they're basically just throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks. So it's going to be very interesting tomorrow.
And then it seems as if the Commonwealth says, I need a guy to say X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Will you get on the stand and say, sure, but
Yeah.
you're going to pay me?
Trooper Paul.
Well,
Trooper Paul.
you know, it's we've seen this over and over again from the first trial, and we're seeing it play itself out again in the second trial. And then when pressed and cross-examined, they fall apart.
Yes.
There's no strength
Yeah.
in their story, in their statements, in corroborating what they already answered to in direct. They
That's
just fall
right.
apart.
And also the fact that Burgess and Welcher are from the same company. That is ripe for cross-examination as well. So like what I was saying before about how Burgess makes Welcher and Aperture look bad. Welcher is going to make Burgess and Aperture look bad. But this kind of incestuous relationship between expert witnesses from the same company, that's it. It doesn't look untouched. It has this appearance of collusion or impropriety. So I'm very interested to see what Alessi does with this, because they both work for Aperture. We know at a minimum Aperture doesn't properly advertise or vet its employees or independent contractors.
And Burgess, and if I'm I hope I'm correct on this. Burgess waited for Welcher's report
Yes.
to conclude his experiment. And again, it's working backwards. You can't do that in cases. That
Yeah.
doesn't qualify. It does not work. That's not science. It's not science.
I was watching, or I was listening to
I like this chat.
Peter Tragos give his insights on how today went. And it was his opinion that there shouldn't have been a supplemental report from Burgess, if anything. And it's not uncommon for an expert to supplement their opinions. That happens all the time. I hate when it does, but it happens all the time. It was the drafting of the report. It was when the report was drafted. It was, he had the information that he was using or refuting since like January and then March. So when you have that information, he had some of it from January from Welcher and Whiffen and maybe Hyde, although I don't think he had anything from Hyde. Then in March, he got, I can't think of the expert's name from the defense. It's like, I think it begins with a D, or L. Either way, he got the defense's expert's information in March. Then he waited, and Alessi pointed this out, another 6 weeks to draft this report on his own. He should have just let these opinions come in naturally through testimony. Then there would have been objections. Don't get me wrong. That's when Alan Jackson or Alessi would have stood up and said, objection, Your Honor, sidebar. And then they would go to their sidebar, and then they would have an argument with the judge that they would probably have lost, where they say, these aren't in his report. We were entitled to know the opinions in his original report. He's gone beyond the scope of it. But he didn't do that. He got cutesy and prepared a supplemental expert report, which I know that Brennan told him to do it. And now in my opinion, he lied about it today. So we're going to have some fun watching how this completely decomposes tomorrow.
And then we find out that when he does the experiment, He tries to go in and take the information off the infotainment system. He did it multiple times and it didn't work. So I'll just take the SIM card, the capture card,
Right.
and I'll use that to get my data. So it's not the true text stream data off the infotainment system. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
It all goes back to that theme of like, you know, your end result and you'll do whatever you want to get there. It's kind of like the 227 Google search because they knew, the Commonwealth knew they had to explain away 227 a.m. and peg it on 623 or 624. So they needed to find experts who would be able to make a plausibly believable explanation for that. And they got them. Now, because of Judge Bev's ruling on Friday, allowing this new adjusted timeline, it's now this fluid variance or a time range when certain things happen. All of this is doing is confusing the jury and making things plausibly believable. It's completely improper. Like, I see all of this happen and I say, well, if Karen is convicted, and I hope that never happens, there's enough in place for her to file a very, very strong motion for either a full dismissal of the charges, reversal of the conviction, you know, but we shouldn't have to be here.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree. Shy, the realtor, $5. She said, now he'll have a lot of free time to get his degree.
I love it.
I love that. You know what? I want to go back a little bit, and let's go back just like a day or two in testimony. We'll go to Brian Higgins. We saw Brian Higgins go to the Canton PD. He's apparently on his phone, but he said in the first trial that he went there to park cars. Now, we saw in the video that he didn't park cars at all. I saw some information today that when he went into his office space inside the Canton PD, that when he came out, someone said, and Todd's smiling here, that it possibly could have been a burner phone that he had in his hand.
Really? Okay, I didn't hear that. Where did you saw that
There's
somewhere
some
on Twitter?
People zoomed in on it and, and started saying, well, what's this phone that he's got?
Interesting.
You gotta love the Twitter sleuths. I didn't hear that. I heard that he had injury on his hand, and
I saw that too.
That he's left-handed, but he was using his right hand to open certain doors, which, I mean, who knows?
Semantics, maybe. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting. Higgins he's in a lot of trouble. The defense better call him. They better call him.
Yeah. And Serenity's saying that it's so sus, and the microdots video is so good. He actually broke down he enhanced it and broke it down. Brian Higgins coming to the Canton PD and did this whole it's like a 15-minute video, and I can't wait to see it.
Well, he even acknowledged in the first trial that, I'm on video. Well, you said you went back to Canton PD for administrative tasks and duties.
And to move cars, and he didn't do any of that.
None of it. So which is it? So absolutely. For him to come back this time around with now the video, because we didn't see that video before.
That's right. And I completely forgot that he had conceded at trial 1 that there's video. Oh, there must be video. I'm on video. So what was he doing there? Was he doing it to be on video intentionally or not?
But also could have been Jamieson's in Ginger that was helping him with some of those administrative duties. And so now when he goes back and in testifying in trial, I'm on video, but yet he's not connecting all the dots based on how many drinks did he have that night.
Yeah. And now that I'm back in Massachusetts, I'm now reminded that I have to deal with, there is a lot of drinking that goes on up here, much more than the planet I come from. No judgment, folks, but woo, I got to get myself ready. But yeah, I think he probably didn't think that through. Like he probably said, hey, there's video, thinking that's going to help validate the story, but didn't think through the fact that, well, wait a minute, I'm on my phone, or maybe it's a burner phone, or I didn't move cars, although I heard someone say he moved one car. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, he said cars. And I put this screen capture out, and I put a quote. I said, this is Brian Higgins moving cars. talking on his phone at 1:34 in the morning. So who's he talking to?
Nothing good happens after midnight.
No.
Midnight, that's what my mom and dad always said.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's pretty self-evident he was up to no good.
So Kamala's asking $2. Said, when can the defense ask for a mistrial? She says, I love the desk.
When can the defense ask for a mistrial? Well, I want to.
Is there any motion they could put in right now? I mean, do they have an argument, or this just has to play out?
I don't see that there's any grounds for the defense to argue for a mistrial right now. However,
And I wouldn't want that. I want a
Correct.
conclusion. I
That's-
want a not guilty verdict.
Right.
yeah,
That's where we're at.
I think
that's why I
we're
was,
there right
Yeah.
now. I mean, this jury's not feeling this.
Yeah, and that's why I wasn't. I was kind of hung up on that with her question because we're in this. I don't think that it would help anyone to ask for a mistrial. They're going to try her again.
They will.
I mean, and
Oh
the
yeah, they
defense
said they're going to keep
fund-
going all the way.
The defense fund, I heard, hit $1 million today, which is wonderful. And if I'm assuming that's correct, so assuming that is correct, who wants to help raise funds for another trial? So asking for a mistrial, I don't see the grounds, and asking for a mistrial, it would be a fool's errand at this point. I wouldn't do that. This is going in like butter.
Yeah, it's hitting the reset button, and that's not what's needed right now.
That's right. That's right.
So we have man Shanon that's probably going to be back up on the stand tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I just look at how is Brennan going to redirect? How is Brennan going to redirect this?
Rip the Band-Aid off. Just let this man off the stand. You can't clean up that debacle of a testimony.
Yeah.
Do they redirect, or does he say no more questions?
He's going to redirect, and as much as I think and continue to maintain that Hank Brennan is a complete idiot, and I will not back down from that opinion, he's actually pretty good at redirect. And I feel like he'll say things to Burgess like, well, you didn't know that there were discrepancies in your credentials on different publications or different platforms. You didn't know that. No, I did not. And had you known that, you would have done something to correct it. Correct. And you've been trying to get your bachelor in science, right?
Oh,
Right.
17 years.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like that's the angle he'll go at him about that.
But then in recross, I would ask, what courses are you enrolled in right now?
Yes.
Oh,
I was hoping that came out today. It's not too late. You know, Alessi can go there. That would have been great. And as I was driving, I'm like, ask that. What are you doing right now? And let's not forget, gentlemen, there was also the little nuanced point from Alessi about there's no degree at the University of Alabama in
For
that.
what you're stating.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
not. There's not. Yeah. And you're right, Todd. That's exactly what he said. There's not
And-
any degree.
And as I was driving up, I was, listening, and I was in a chat, and yes, I was driving, and I took my phone and come arrest me. I wasn't in Massachusetts when this happened, but I took my phone and I went, oh shit, there's not even a degree in that? Like, that's amazing.
That's pretty good.
That is really, that's like scrappy, and I mean that as a compliment, scrappy expert vetting. When you are going to cross an expert, delve into the degrees, vet the person, see if it is a degree. So that was really good exploratory, investigative vetting of him as an expert when you prepare to cross him. But that's just this added layer. Not only did you lie about your qualifications, you've misadvertised them. You've been inconsistent on different media platforms or networking platforms with your qualifications. But, oh yeah, the degree that you say you had or have or are working to doesn't exist. So I'm loving this. This is like Disney World for me.
What was I going to say? Actually, Lauren Lauren in the chat was just agreeing with you. She said, boom, exactly, Todd, about what courses are you enrolled in now? And then heavy hands right below it says he'll sign up tonight.
He's
which
going
I
to get
love that.
another online degree.
Let's take a quick pause really quick. I just want to make sure, please, everybody, if you can, smash that like button down below. We have about 2,700 people watching tonight, close to 1,000 on YouTube. It'd be great to get to 1,000 on YouTube and quite a few here on X as well. Please make sure to smash that like button. I'm going to have Meredith O'Neill join us in about 7 or 8 minutes. And what we're going to do is we're going to spin the wheel to win the framed mugshot signed posted by Karen Reed. And we did a fundraising event over the last like 48 hours. And Meredith, myself, Lauren promoted this, and we've raised close to, I think, $6,500 for Karen's defense direct donations. That was all direct to her website. And we're going to have her come on here in a couple minutes, and we'll spin the wheel and give that away. So I think that'd be a great thing. Where do you think the Commonwealth, I'm going to ask both of you, where do you think the Commonwealth goes from here? I mean, do they, Tully seems like he's wrapped up in a lot of this. We know that he's on the witness list. He may not be called. There's rumors out there. I think Aiden was talking about it, that he's not going to be called.
No.
They were going to use, I think, Yuri to be clean face on that.
Yep.
And he ended up getting smoked.
Yep.
I'm curious, the Commonwealth obviously can't call Michael Proctor.
They're gambling on that. Yeah, I don't see them calling at this stage. I thought they would have, and it had another rip the Band-Aid moment. But at this stage, they've tried to minimize him and minimize him and minimize him. And every time someone's asked whose name is in that report, Michael Proctor's name pops up.
Yeah, I think that this case has been presented by the Commonwealth in such a disjointed manner. It's a little hard to predict what's next, but in light of the rumors that they're coming to a close with their case in chief, I would presume that they're going to call Judd Welcher. And then it sounded like Judge Bev is allowing Judd Welcher to give some opinions, and then
There's going to be someone's going to call, I think, be called back.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand her logic, or logic, as you guys say, but I'm learning. But I don't understand what she's proposing because it was so ass backwards.
I want to almost think that Jennifer McCabe might be recalled.
Possibly.
Yes, I
It
could
was
see that
about the
happening.
227
Yes.
Google search.
Possibly.
And he said, well, if we have, I think Jackson said, if we have to, we'll call her back.
Yeah, and that's not optimal for any of you out there watching, because she'll be coached and prepped, and, she's been watching the trial, so she knows what buzzwords to say to make this all the more nebulous for the jury. But then also they have, I don't think they're going to call any of their additional fact witnesses. At this point, I think it would likely just be the neurosurgeon who is kind of meant to, I forget his name. I think his name might be Wolf.
Yeah, which they essentially smoked with the medical examiner.
Right. I was
on cross.
I was surprised they called Scorty Bello, the medical examiner, because they did engage a neurosurgeon from Florida who was and is anticipated to give opinions to kind of clean up where she left off. She wasn't going to go far enough to say manner of death and make certain concessions that the Commonwealth needed.
And she was one of their best witnesses.
Yes.
And still couldn't say that there's any evidence of a collision.
That's right. So here we are. It goes back to the opening statement, Alan Jackson. There was no collision. There was no collision. There was no collision. And that is ingrained in my head, hopefully in the jury's head. I'm still hearing feedback that the jury is kind of smirking and reacting. And
It's been a lot of that.
yeah, and I will, on that point, if I may, Brian, I do think that it was interesting that the judge made a comment to the jury the other day about their
Reactions.
gesticulations and reactions. That's actually highly unusual, and I would dare say improper. She shouldn't be doing that. The judge should not be commenting on their responses or reactions to what they're seeing. It's just not her role to do that. If they're talking amongst each other, that's another story. If they're leaning in and saying, ooh, this or that. But she shouldn't be doing that. And that's a good sign, even if the judge is noticing that they're reacting.
Yeah, that's good. Mary's asking here, she has a question. She said, what if Proctor's called and pleads the fifth at this stage? That would be something.
Yeah, but they're going to ask him about what he's already testified. in the first trial.
Yeah.
So
He's waived it.
Yeah,
He's already
essentially.
he's waived it. I don't see that he has a Fifth Amendment right. I maintain that he waived it. Also, there's no, I mean, unless he's facing perjury charges, which I'm unaware of. I think he did perjure himself. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if we would see him plead the Fifth. If they won't call him if he's going to plead the Fifth.
Right.
He might plead the Fifth if the defense calls him, although I don't anticipate that either.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to get really, really interesting.
They will call him, though.
The defense is gonna call him.
will. They need him to get the other texts in, the ones with his buddies, the ones that were so pejorative against Karen and showed, he's a Boston cop too, and the homeowner's not going to catch any shit and all of that. And the fact that a gift was offered to him and he directed it to his
Give it to my wife.
I mean, there's a lot of examples of what information is needed directly from Proctor, but I don't think he's going to be called by the Commonwealth. And if what I think is correct, I think you only have just a small handful of remaining witnesses for the Commonwealth. So we'll have to see.
Tsunami says the feds are still watching.
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
they are.
100.
Yeah, Tsunami, they are still watching. Like to anyone who thinks they stopped,
No.
stop it.
Stop it.
They've been watching the whole time.
Let's do this while we have a little bit of a break and we're waiting for Meredith to jump on here. If you all have any questions and you have questions specific, you can put like a question T or question N or question for everybody.
Yeah.
We'll answer a few questions before we go off air here in a little bit. Oh, Meredith just jumped on. Let's bring her up on the stage. Hi,
Yes.
Meredith. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. So,
Meredith.
Hey, Nan. Hi, Todd. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for jumping on with us. And again, we did a fundraiser for Karen Reed's Defense Fund the other day. Probably we ran a couple of days, and then we did the real push for it on Sunday. Can you give us the total amount of money that we raised in direct donations for Karen Reed's Defense Fund?
The grand total, I checked and I tallied it all up again right before the show. It is $6,620.
All right, that's
Wow.
awesome.
I know.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
And I know during the show on Sunday, we had someone that actually donated $1,000, $1,000 donation
Wow.
during the live show, a direct donation right to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. So what we did was Meredith had a framed mugshot photo, and Karen had obviously signed it, and that's what we're gonna raffle off tonight. So
Not raffle, giveaway.
a giveaway. I'm sorry, give it away.
Yeah.
I always say giveaway. It's a giveaway.
No raffles.
No raffles. We're gonna give that away, and I don't know. You're gonna spin the wheel and let us
Yeah.
know who the name is.
Yeah, I got it all set up. Let me just do the share screen thing.
Take your time. Everybody says it's great. They love it.
Can you see the wheel?
Yep. We'll bring it up. Let me
Can you see it?
see. There we go. Cool. So you get all the names that are loaded in the wheel here, and we're gonna.
Yep,
we're gonna give this away.
787 entries.
That's awesome. That's a lot of work. Yeah.
Shuffle it a couple more times, and then I'm gonna spin it.
All right. And we are not sponsored by Sheba. I wish I was.
I love it.
It promotes healthy kittens.
That's true.
I know, it's totally like my Google ads probably for me getting kitten food.
All right. Who do we got? Maybe a little bit of delay.
Lauren Kinney.
All right, Lauren.
Congrats.
Congratulations. And if you want to let everybody know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, so you can either message me on Facebook, on Twitter at Meredith O'Neill, or message Brian to get in touch with me. If anybody here is listening who knows Lauren, let her know. If I don't hear from her tonight, I'll try and dig around. Usually, like, I'll find the person
we got a
in the
friend.
justice group.
We got a friend. Look at that.
I know. Claire.
That's awesome.
I love
Yeah,
it.
so either way, you can reach out to Meredith through Facebook, or if you're on X and you're connected with her, reach out to her. If you want to email me, you can do that as well at letstalklivepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that we get this out to Lauren, the winner. So again, the winner is Lauren Kinney, and we'll get that out to you as soon as you reach out to us.
Yeah. Thank you,
awesome.
everybody, for.
Oh, shit. I just kicked her out by accident.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, Meredith. Oh, gosh.
Wow.
Come back in, Meredith. We'll get you back. I'm so sorry. Let me message her.
Yeah, send her a message.
I will.
We'll, she knows. She'll catch this. But yeah, thank you so much, Meredith. And also, congrats to Lauren. That's wonderful.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Get,
I booted her by
typing.
accident.
Sorry about that. We were done with you. We booted you.
I'm getting picked on now. Lauren DC, my friend Lauren's like, way to go, Brian. I did not mean to do that. I meant to go shut her screen down. But anyway,
I love it.
in while we're waiting, I want Meredith to come back and say thank you. Josie asking Nan, will Proctor getting called in the defense doing direct examinations, how much does that change limit the way that he can question him? I know they can't ask leading questions. What else is different?
Yeah, hi Josie. So here's how it works. If the defense calls Proctor as a witness, they call him and have to give him direct examination questions. And when they do that, they can only ask open-ended questions. They can't make statements and then say correct at the end. So you don't get the same punch and panache out of a witness when you have to ask them open-ended, non-leading questions. So pick any particular area that you would want the defense to really go at Proctor, and just understand that it would be completely neutralized if you did that. And then Brennan gets to come in and cross him. The same's going to apply to Higgins, by the way. So the Commonwealth will come in and then cross Higgins or Proctor, and they can ask leading questions. They can make statements like, you didn't mean to mislead anyone, right? So it's really not optimal. But also, Josie, what the defense can do is if Proctor or Higgins is not answering their questions, they can make an application to the judge to hold the witness in contempt and also to consider them a hostile witness. If they consider the witness hostile, then you can ask leading questions of the witness. But there's certain elements in each state that require you to be, to satisfy if you want a judge to consider that witness hostile. They basically have to be avoiding your question. They're not answering your question. So if there's enough, I'm asking a question, it's open-ended, I'm not getting an answer, judge, I'd like permission to hold the witness as a hostile witness, and Judge Bev isn't going to allow that.
And I would add also with Brian Albert as well.
Oh, Albert too.
Being in that same scenario.
Yeah, he's in the same boat. So it is a risk when they call these individuals as their own witnesses, because most judges would hold them as hostile witnesses. But Judge Bev, I mean, what can we say?
That's right.
The jig is up with her. It's so self-evident. But people like Higgins, Albert, and Proctor must be called.
Yes.
They must. I've heard
100%.
people debating it. You have to call them.
Yeah, and Tsunami's asking in the chat, isn't there past testimony going to be questioned?
It is.
Yes, it's in play. Going back to depositions.
Yeah.
Testimony before the grand jury. All of that is at play.
Right. And also, I was saying on Mazza's stream yesterday, there's one little blessing out of the fact that there was a mistrial and that we have a retrial. And that's that we have one more bit of testimony that the defense team can use to try to impeach witnesses now. So they can go back to trial 1.0. They can go back to prior depositions, grand jury proceedings, FBI interviews, etc. They can use, the more things they can use in terms of witness testimony or witness statements is a good position to be in if you're the defense. Because when people lie, and I know people are lying here as you do, when people lie, it's really hard to keep the truth straight. So they will be able to go back and ask questions of these witnesses and possibly experts if they've previously, like Whiffen, Hyde, and confront them with the discrepancies.
Yeah. Lauren DC has a question for Nan. How many more weeks of trial do you estimate?
I know the defense, it was quoted as saying a week and a half, as Judge Bev says. A week and a half.
Week and a half.
No way. They are not going to put their defense case in a week and a half. But assuming the Commonwealth rests this week, which it's trending that way, I think you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks more of trial. That's my prediction.
Question for Todd. Todd, would you call Brian Albert if you were an attorney?
If I'm on the defense side, 100%.
Yeah.
Again, Nan eloquently laid out that Proctor and Higgins, the three amigos, if you will, they're all in the same boat. And, you know, they're detrimental to the prosecution's case, and they are golden nuggets for the defense because there's so much, right? We've learned so much from 1.0, and now with this some of the new evidence from videos to statements and testimony, there's even more for Karen's defense team to be able to just eviscerate them over. So, and again, the best that they can do is testify like Sergeant Buchanan, evasive.
Right.
That's the best that they're going to.
Yeah.
That's it. They're not going to come across credible, is my point.
And you are absolutely right about like the new evidence. Now that there's knowledge of or at least more appreciation of some of what went on in the waterfall video, with the peacocking and the like, and the video of Higgins at the CPD. That is ripe for exploration by the defense team, not only with Higgins, but also with Albert. Because if my math was right and I was following the timestamps, Higgins was on the phone with someone.
At 1:34 in the morning.
Right. It was like 1:34, but like the alleged butt dials were around the 2:20.
You're right.
Okay.
Like, ironically, right after or just before the 2:20. It was ironically just before the 2:27 a.m. Google search.
Right. So all of that, like, I just don't believe in coincidences.
Right.
And I find 1:34 after a full day of what, you know, Higgins and Albert were allegedly doing, which was, I've been told that they may not have even done this, but allegedly going down to New York for the funeral services of a fallen officer, with all of the pre-gaming at either C.F. McCarthy's, or maybe they all weren't there. I don't know if all of them were at C.F. McCarthy's, but then go to the waterfall, then go back to the 34 Fairview Road. And when you're in this position of drinking all day, long day, I think too many people were in communication with each other in a 1 hour time frame, which was in the middle of the night. Like, I think 1:30 a.m. to 2:30 a.m., that's the middle of the night where I come from, my planet.
That's
so
right. I'm well in bed by that time.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Maybe not last night, but
that time. And Dash is asking, question for everybody, should the defense ask about the missing socks? That's been a big topic of conversation lately. I know that in the first trial, it was like, where's John's belt? Where's John's belt? The funny thing is, it never really was talked about. And I remember going out and meeting Karen for that first time in August. She's like, we have his belt.
I thought I saw a picture of part of John O'Keefe's anatomy with socks
There
on.
was, yeah. But apparently now I guess they're missing.
Yeah, see, this is where I just, I don't know if I have validated information on that. I just saw one picture and I'm like, well, he's wearing socks. So maybe I didn't understand that correctly. But yeah, they should explore that. There are questions that the defense hasn't been asking of certain witnesses that they should. And I'm like, why aren't they asking about this? Whether it's asking about the shoes, the socks.
And I'd like to know more about how Proctor held on to the clothing for so long.
Oh, yeah. That's
There's
another
more meat in the bone on that.
That's right. And I love when you use that analogy, Todd, because that's another reason why, my opinion, the defense needs to call Proctor. Because to hear, I think it was Buchanan the other day, say, or maybe it was the lab person, Hartnett.
Hartnett.
Somebody was saying when the materials and clothing was brought to our lab in March, that's when we tested it. And I think some questions were asked of her about and I think they were objected to, but do you know what happened to those clothes in the meantime? Do you know why they weren't brought to you sooner? And either she didn't know or the judge wouldn't let her answer those questions because of stupid sustaining. But we want Proctor to be able to explain where the hell were the clothes? Why were they drying on butcher paper for X number of weeks?
4 or 5 days or whatever it was. Yeah.
So it's ripe for exploration.
The thing that I do like, and I was like, was my yes moment when Alessi asked Hartnett about the taillight and said, did you see any sand or debris inside the taillight? Because that would make sense if this was the collision that hit John and this taillight exploded and Karen had to drive back to her house, to John One Meadows. And then in the morning, she got up and drove back to Canton. And then that car was loaded up on a flatbed and flatbedded 60 miles to Canton PD. There would be water spots. There would be salt and sand.
Right.
And when you look at the taillight, it's completely clean. So I thought that there was, he said it, he said, did you see any sand or debris? But I think there was more there that he could have gone down. And I don't know, could he have asked, was this cleaned? Why does this look so clean?
Yeah, or are you surprised to not have seen any sand or salt or debris? Or would you agree with me if the vehicle traveled from Dighton to Canton, there would in the elements, there would have been signs of sand and debris or salt. But also there were no signs of blood, DNA, and something else, but biological evidence.
Matter, yeah.
On the taillight.
Speaking of DNA, though, we had a lot of other people's DNA all over those
right.
the taillight pieces and John's clothing. And it always was suspicious that it was just 2 unknown DNA sources.
Yeah.
I wonder who that would be.
Well, I'm sure Todd could speak to this, Brian, because, you even heard it from Buchanan. He agreed that he's supposed to, as a law enforcement officer, trust but verify.
Verify.
Right, Todd? So if he didn't, and I think that was the overarching theme here. It's like you were presented, Buchanan. If you're going to just cast aside Proctor, you're the supervisor. If your team was presented with avenues to pursue, whatever they were, biological evidence or the fact that there was DNA of other individuals on key pieces of evidence, you're not just supposed to explain it away and say, no, we didn't need to look into that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, when you look at other cases, sexual assault cases, who are the other individuals in the victim's life? Let's rule them out.
Yeah.
Get a buccal swab. Let's get a buccal swab. We'll just end it.
Yeah.
Yep. Ex-boyfriends, known work associates, whoever. Whatever your list comes up, you rule them out.
Yeah, that's a great point, because as someone who follows true crime, and I'm going to botch this saying, I've heard law enforcement interviewed on programs kind of saying, once we rule someone out, we're all the more closer to finding the individual. And I'm sure there's a more artful way to say that. But ruling out potential candidates or suspects or subjects of an investigation is key. What came out of Buchanan's testimony was they didn't do any of it.
Didn't do anything.
Nothing.
And he had no excuse for it. No due diligence.
And that's my favorite saying. Again, I've got many of them, but the innocent get more innocent in the investigation, and the guilty get more guilty.
Yeah.
You said that last week, I believe, or 2 or 3 weeks ago. That is right. The innocent will get more innocent. And interestingly, when you look at the investigation and you fail to explore certain key pieces of evidence to rule potential candidates out, all you're doing is making this really what in a normal court would be a ripe opportunity for there to be reasonable doubt. In this court, the judge just is not open to even being a supporter of the reasonable doubt standard. She's just saying, nope, everything looks good so far, let a jury decide. But the failure to take these key steps is really putting Karen's team in they're in a pickle because every time they try to fight these very reasonable issues, they fail because of her.
Let's take 2 more questions and then we'll wrap this up for tonight. Question for Nan. Nan, do you think Welcher has any legs to stand on with the damage done today with his protege that became untrustworthy? We kind of talked about this before, but if you want to quickly answer that.
Well, without seeing Welcher's report, I don't know all that he's going to give evidence on in terms of accident reconstruction. I do think he has a leg to stand on because I don't know his opinions, but let's assume they're better than Trooper Joseph Paul's. So if they're better than Trooper Paul's, the best I will say is that Welcher and Aperture took a huge hit today derivatively because of Burgess's just complete evisceration on the stand. But Welcher still has a leg to stand on until Alessi fillets him. And I look forward to that.
Question for Todd, and then we'll end the show here. Question for Todd. One theory is that John O'Keefe was hit in the back of his head with his gun. Are officers allowed to carry their issued weapons when they are off duty?
They are. Officers, I carried my gun off duty. And that being said, I try to go places where I don't think I need to carry my gun. So, but there's no restrictions, there's no violations of policy and procedure. That being said, the laceration that has been identified by the ME is a horizontal laceration, which would indicate a much more robust impact to John O'Keefe's head. Not a rock, because a rock, again, the Commonwealth's theory, he was struck. Trooper Paul says he pirouetted, landed 30 feet away. A rock would not do that type of damage. It would do damage to the skull, but not as described by the ME.
Interesting. So, the biological evidence then, all that, his head is showing, and that became an issue in the staircase as well, right, Brian? Because the wounds on that woman's head told different stories. Did she fall down multiple steps? Was she attacked by an owl? And there was a bunch of different scenarios that were played out. So many times this is where a forensic pathologist is critical. I know I wasn't asked, I can't speak to the gun or pistol whipping, but I can tell you that this is why the neurosurgeon who's coming in, and I haven't seen his report, but the neurosurgeon from the Commonwealth, he's going to be at a major disadvantage when, I'm assuming, Alessi gets his hands on him. Because neurosurgeons don't explore and derive opinions from injuries and lacerations to heads. They cure them. They surgically repair them. They don't derive causation opinions about them, just like you were saying. So what could cause this injury? That's just not part of their bailiwick. So I'm very interested to see what he has to say. And maybe I am interested just because it kind of tinges upon my particular subspecialty as a lawyer, as a healthcare lawyer, dealing with a lot of doctors. But that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. And I would not doubt that he comes forth this week. We'll see.
You know what my theory on the glass is? Because I've actually rethought this now in trial too.
Yeah.
I think that John, and again, this is just one of the theories I've thrown out, that when he went inside the house, somehow that glass fell and it was used to actually cause that laceration, busted over his head, and then just threw it outside with him in the snow. I've thrown that around too.
Maybe. I've heard barbell. I heard he fell back and hit his head on a barbell bench.
And I always thought maybe
bench.
someone grabbed that glass out of his hand, he turned his head and they popped him and then they threw it out. Front lawn. I
was talking to a friend a few days ago about the fact that for all of this to fall into place, the timeline, what happened in a matter of seconds, and then the cover-up, the plan of action took place imminently. The fact is something happened to him in that house, and then all of a sudden the phone is out of the house. Like, get the phone out of the house and do this, do that. all of this very immediate, very foolish, very critical thinking. Get the glass out of the house, get the body out of the house when they did it, whenever that was, and there's different theories as to timing.
Well, Brian, I know you want to wrap, but this is another area where there's meat on the bone. It was talked about his body temperature of 80 degrees.
Right.
86, I think. 86 when he arrived, I think.
Has there been analysis to say in the human body of a man 200 plus pounds, what is the timeline to be out in the cold from 98 degrees, normal human body, down 18-degree decline? What is that timeline?
I think that's great. That's a great area to pursue. I want to say they did pursue that a little bit with Scorty Bello, but I know they're going to.
Yes,
I
they
know
did.
they're going to pursue it.
But they didn't specifically ask her. Could it have been an hour? Could it have been 6 hours? And it was just more there that they could have gone after.
I agree. I think it's going to come out through medical experts brought forth by the defense. Yeah. And it is an important area. The phone temperature and the body temperature and the development or lack thereof of frostbite, all important areas to watch in 100%. The coming days.
And going back to Todd's point and just kind of wrapping all this together, the thing that's very strange about this, and this is, if you really think about it, and you were just talking about it, all these critical things that started happening all in one time frame. There's no way statistically in life that many coincidences would all circumvent at one time.
Right.
There's no way. I mean, statistically, it would not happen. And it's always between this like critical time of like midnight to like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
That 3-hour window. I'm broadening it a little bit, but that 3-hour window, all these coincidences just started happening. I've never even heard of such a thing.
I agree, but when you put a law enforcement family and those with law enforcement connections who maybe a mistake happened, maybe there was an accident, and an immediate plan to cover it up, those are people who know how to invest. Not all of them, but there are people in that group who know how to investigate crimes, who know all of the areas of a crime that are going to be explored, whether it's cell phone data, the existence of cell phones, Life 360 data, Apple Health data. It's the perfect storm.
And adding to it all the drinking that was going on.
Yep.
Reacting emotionally instead of prefrontal cortex.
Yes.
Yep. All of that.
I got a question. Go ahead.
No,
Nan.
go ahead.
I want to ask you a question before we wrap. Let's just say this accident happens inside the house, and we know that we have previous and past law enforcement, and if they would have just called the cops, realistically, what probably would have happened?
Actually, what probably would have happened is the explanation. We were horsing around. John got hurt. Accidents are accidents. It's crazy. It doesn't go beyond that.
I mean, maybe I'm not a law enforcement expert, but maybe the police are going to drill down on, well, who did it? Tell me what happened, and then investigate what is being reported. So, let's just assume for a moment it was Colin.
Sure.
If Colin and he were horsing around, this and that, John fell back, struck his head. There's interviews of Colin. There's interviews of the witnesses, hopefully done properly. But I don't think there would have been anything. I mean, it seems like an accident. This isn't like a bar fight where people end up going to prison.
It doesn't seem that way. And again, there's an argument, at the waterfall that there was some movement that Albert had gestured to Higgins that he looked to be a little aggressive. But, with all that being said, to play out that hypothetical scenario, could you say there's claim for manslaughter?
Right.
Could that be on the table? Maybe.
Maybe.
But again, if it's being investigated with no intent, it's being investigated as it's truly an accident. Yeah, I don't see much coming out of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's, excuse me, criminally negligent homicide. Yep. There's all different variations, and I don't know the ones up here specifically in Massachusetts, but each state has the equivalent of like a criminally negligent homicide, which is when someone is injured. It was unintentional. It was, this is the type of scenario for that.
Yeah.
But I don't even think that it would have.
And even at the end of the day, if you get a guilty out of that, no prior history, there's little to no jail time.
Right. And there's all of these alternate pathways for, pretrial intervention or probation, those types of things, which is really maddening to think about, Brian, because had they done the right thing, and
John,
because I don't think I just don't believe he was intentionally killed. I don't subscribe to the he was intentionally lured to the house theory either. I know many people do, but let's assume it was just horsing around and guys being guys. That's my feeling. And there was an accident. Just do the right thing. And they didn't do the right thing. And now what they're doing is causing stress, a waste of judicial resources and taxpayer dollars.
Dragging a woman through the mud that should not be involved in this at all.
Right. Just completely
just eviscerated her life.
Right.
I mean, let's be frank here. I mean,
she'll never be the same.
Her life is completely changed financially,
and the parents.
Personally. Her parents now have to suffer for the rest of their life. The extended family are always going to have to suffer for the rest of their life. I mean, this has literally crippled such a wonderful family.
Right.
I mean, they're great people. I've been around them. They have been exactly the same that I've having conversations over the last year and a half plus.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's eviscerated their family. And to have to sit here and try to regather this after an acquittal is, I just say, look, move away. Get the flip out of this state.
Right. Yeah. And you see the level of insensitivity they have when it's if she doesn't plea, it's going to be an episode. Or tell them the guy wasn't in the house. These are people who just don't care. Yeah. So there's been no accountability, and I find it maddening. It's probably one of the most notable motivating factors for me getting involved in this case. But yeah, they should have done the right thing. And at this point, I'm okay with how this case is going in, which is why I don't think there should be a mistrial. Let's see what happens.
Let's get to a judgment.
Yeah.
Todd, any final words?
No, great to be here in the studio, Brian. Really enjoyed my time. Always love working with Nan. And, we've got a few more weeks out of this. And I can't wait for tomorrow to see what Alessi does.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to be standing with boots on the ground in the morning to some degree. I will be there whenever I roll out of bed. And then I will be in court on Wednesday. And so I'll be running around tomorrow, so I won't get to fully experience the Shanon Burgess disaster until later in the day. So everybody keep me posted.
And I'll be on Canton Confidential Wednesday evening, 7 o'clock.
Awesome.
NBC Boston.
I will be catching that. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Go watch some Microdots.
Yeah, I got to see that.
You got to go watch some Microdots. I want to thank both of my awesome guests and friends to come in live. And we now have, we've gone through 2 shows with the brand new setup here. I'm really loving it. It's spacious. It's comfortable. And we keep evolving here at the LTL platform. So if you're just checking in or just don't know who my 2 guests are, again, attorney Nan Gallagher, Jersey girl, coming up here in Massachusetts hanging out, and also retired Mass State Police Todd McGhee. I appreciate both of you coming into the studio tonight and hanging out and having a great discussion and having a little bit of fun and just getting the truth out there and answering questions for the audience. So
thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So with that being said, probably Aiden is live right now. Go check out Turtle Boy and support him or any other show that might be running right now. But please make sure to smash that like button on the way out, comment and subscribe, and let us know how you're feeling about everything in this discussion that we had tonight. All right, everybody, we're going to hit the outro. Have a good night. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night.